feminism is what we say it is. And we say that feminism is the problem. Putting the conversation where it needs to be. This is the Vanguard Report.
Hello. Greetings to everybody on Earth who would rather see less feminism on Earth. This is episode number 10 of the Vanguard Report, your weekly program on 365 Live, where we talk about nothing but the feminist problem and what the hell we ought to do about it. We make it simple. Everything on this program revolves around three basic questions. 1. What is feminism? 2. Where do we stand? 3. What is to be done? Sometimes we just talk about one of these. Other times we toggle back and forth so quickly it's hard to keep track. But still, everything we talk about one way or another is under the shadow of these three foundational points of reference. So, I am your host, Fiedel Bogan, and as usual, I am with my co-host, Nick Redding, aka Eric Duckman, a true son of the Alberta Prairie, and one of the leading counter-feminist insurgents in the city of Edmonton. Nick, bestow your benediction upon all of the fine people out there.
Hey guys, I'm Nick Redding with mensrightsedmonton.com. Check out our website, mensrightsedmonton.com, and check out our YouTube channel, and please subscribe to it. We always want more subscribers.
Yes, please subscribe. Please go give their website traffic. While I'm on the subject of websites, you should go to cfproject.blog.com. That is where you will see the Poison Manifesto in all of its glory. If you want to know the plan for the revolution, the broad outline, the umbrella statement, and the background to most of what we talk about here on this program, you will want to read the Poison Manifesto. You will want to download the PDF copy that you will find linked at the bottom, and you'll want to share it with anybody and everybody who might be interested, or even with those who might hate it. It's all good. That's cfproject.blog.com. I think that's appearing in the chat window right about now. Very well. This is the Vanguard Report, episode number 10. So, what about that little pipsqueak, Elliot Rodger? He surely does cast a long shadow now, doesn't he? But, in point of fact, Elliot's inherent significance to us is just about nil. Yes, in a more sane world, Elliot Rodger would be just another crime story, just more tabloid stuff, just another homicidal maniac to be held responsible for his own actions. Elliot Rodgers must go alone to meet his maker for what he has done, if that's your belief system. Otherwise, he just goes in the ground and rots. Believe whatever you want to believe, but it begins and ends with Elliot Rodger. And that's all I've got to say about it. Well, all I ought to have to say about it, all anybody ought to have to say about it, but we live in a more complicated world. You see, for us in particular, Elliot Rodger serves mainly as an object lesson and a proof of prophecy. Yes, counter-feminism is a prediction-based political formula, and for years we have tried to warn the world that people like Elliot Rodgers would crop up regularly due to the anti-male zeitgeist which has established itself over the last half-century of the feminist regime. Our constant endeavor is to warn the world about such things in the hope that we might somehow starve the fire of its fuel and keep the nastiness to a minimum. Now, notice that I said Elliot Rodger's inherent significance to us is just about nil, but his second-hand or imputed significance, which we didn't ask for, is enormous. You see, even though our long-term mission is to prevent the tragic manifestation of people like Elliot Rodger, there are many who wish somehow to hold us responsible for such people when indeed they do manifest. That's right, we only want to offer the world a correct analysis that will make it possible to prevent the worst. And yet, when the worst does occasionally happen, those who hate our message of truth and salvation seek only to blame us for this. Boy, talk about shooting the messenger. Talk about no good deed going unpunished. All right, so here's the bottom line. If you are not a feminist, they want to blame you for Elliot Rodger. Oh yes, I know they will make use of words like MRA or PUA or men's rights, but remember that they, the feminists, are not talking English. They are talking femspeak. And femspeak, in case you don't know, is a language that deceitfully mimics English but conveys a range of hidden meanings in a kind of semantic dog whistle code. Let's be honest, there is no consensus definition for the word MRA, apart from what the acronym itself plainly intones. There is no consensus definition. Nobody's ever really nailed it down. But the tag is indiscriminately stuck to all sorts of people who don't necessarily stick that tag to themselves. And moreover, there is no clearly established list of criteria separating the MRA from the non-MRA zone of reality. What I'm saying is that MRA is a fuzzy set, which means that it has no definite boundary. And if it has no definite boundary, then it has no definition. Full stop.
Well, I mean, it has a loose definition. It's sort of a catch-all slur for anybody that they don't like. They'll throw in they will start calling people like the anti-gay people over at Chick-fil-A. They'll start calling them MRAs. The only reason they threw in Elliot Rodger, they were calling him an MRA, is because he had a problem with women, and they're already calling everybody who has a problem with women, even though he had a problem with men and women and himself. They're just going to call them MRAs so that they can slime this movement. I mean, they're already calling guys
they're political enemies. Yes.
Yeah, they're already calling the amazing atheist an MRA just because he bitches about feminism on his YouTube channel. So,
listen, I've heard feminists call other feminists MRAs.
Yeah, even Danielle Peretti here in Edmonton gets called an MRA when she gets into arguments with other feminists.
Nick, you haven't told me about that.
No,
Danielle Peretti is being called an MRA by other feminists.
I just read her blog, and she says that she mentioned being called an MRA when she gets into disagreements with other feminists.
There you go. I almost rest my case there. If they're calling Danielle Peretti an MRA, that's just open season on what that word means. It means everything. It means nothing. Anybody can be an MRA.
Danielle Peretti, for the audience, for those who don't know, is she's the organizer of the Slut Walk here in Edmonton.
Yes, a feminist if ever there was.
Yeah.
Has she ever confessed to being a feminist, by the way? Has she ever, point blank said, I am a feminist?
Absolutely, yeah.
Good. Well, I'll give her points for that. At least she's not trying to be a sneaky little weasel.
Yes, she is, just not in that way.
Well, she's maybe in some other way, but at least not in the point of hiding her feminism or not plainly laying her cards on the table about I am a feminist. Now, that's to her credit. I'll give credit where it's due. But, at any rate, when we realize that MRA is just a fem-speak word, we are in a better position to see what the hell is going on. Here, let me lay it out for you. The acceleration of the non-feminist revolution and the dramatic growth of activated non-feminist numbers has got the feminists worried. Seriously worried. They see that they are confronting a full-scale demographic insurgency from all over the cultural map, and in tactical terms, this means that the enemy forces are flanking them. Hence, their increasing desperation. They're casting about madly, looking for a way to contain the forces which menace their power and their way of life and their hegemony. They understand that they are threatened by at least two critical factors. First, the growing public conversation about men's issues and men's rights. That stuff is getting into the public square now. That's the first thing. The second thing is the increasingly harsh social criticism directed against feminism, both as a movement and as an ideology. Both of these forces are pounding away like battering rams at the feminist power structure. Ooh, that sounds so violent. Pounding away like battering rams at the feminist power structure. And the feminists have accurately and quite rightly concluded that their combined effect must be somehow contained and ultimately put out of operation if the feminist project is to continue. All right. Next, you should understand that any activated non-feminist, me, Nick Redding, Paul Elam, James over here, on and on, is either attacking feminism by name, advocating male human rights, or both. So any activated non-feminist, I'm not saying MRA, but any activated non-feminist is distinguished by one or both of those two earmarks, attacking feminism by name or advocating male human rights in some form. So, putting it simply, if you are not a feminist and you are politically outspoken about this, then you objectively are a threat to the feminist power structure and to the entire feminist way of life. And that's all there is to it. All right. Here is one more point that must be very carefully noted. So take out your notepads and jot this down. It is impossible to take a pro-male stance of any kind without posing a threat to feminism. That's so good, I'll say it again. It is impossible to take a pro-male stance of any kind without posing a threat to feminism. If you are pro-male and you stand up for that way of thinking, you are posing a threat to feminism. Now, conversely, it is impossible to attack feminism by name without taking a pro-male stance. You see, those two things mirror each other. If you take a pro-male stance, you are a threat to feminism. If you attack feminism, you are taking a pro-male stance. All of those conditions will hold true and be found to apply if you are properly parsing the situation and using the correct meaning of the term feminism. So those two things, they're part and parcel. Got that? Okay, remember that. We shall return to it. At any rate, we are now in a position to see why the eruption of Elliot Rodger has been such a godsend to feminism. They need an iconic figure of evil, an iconic figure of misogynistic anti-feminist violence who will symbolize all the forces on earth encapsulate all the forces on earth that threaten the feminist power structure and the feminist way of life. And Eliot is their boy. Eliot puts a human face on what feminism believes and wants the public to believe that non-feminism is. Elliot Rodger, in the feminist mythology, is now the face of non-feminism. Never mind that feminism richly deserves the social horsewhipping that it will soon be receiving. Never mind that almost none of this will be motivated by literal hatred of women. The feminists have never been sticklers for truth, and they will tell themselves whatever they need to tell themselves, however bizarre, in order to rationalize all that they have done in the past and must do in the future to maintain their stranglehold of power and privilege upon civilization at large, to maintain their hegemony. So, that is why the feminists are insisting that if you are not a feminist, you are implicated in the crimes of Elliot Rodger. You are somehow, in some mystical way, responsible for the crimes of Elliot Rodger. You are somehow similar to Elliot Rodger. You are in the same box, in the same bag, in the same corner with Elliot Rodger, simply because you are not a feminist. And this is rather ironic, considering that non-feminists are, I think, the majority of the human race, and talk about generalizing, talk about stereotyping, and say we're all like Elliot Rodgers, or we're all somehow responsible for Elliot Rodgers, or somehow in cahoots with Elliot Rodgers. Oh, that's mental illness, if you believe that. No, not all non-feminist men and women are like Elliot Rodgers or in any way compromised or implicated with Elliot Rodgers. Only a feminist would say something like that. You see, the feminists are merely attempting to shut you up if you are either pro-male or hard on feminism, or both. It's those two critical points again. In other words, they are attempting to shut you up if you are an uppity non-feminist of any kind. They want to bully you into silence by pushing you into the same corner, not only with Elliot Rodger, but with Mark Lepine, George Sodini, and a whole bunch of other nasty people, past, present, or future. I could rattle off a long list there. That is how much the feminists hate you for refusing to be indoctrinated into feminism. They want to pull the whole world into their little box, you see. They hate you for refusing to be indoctrinated into feminism and for refusing to keep your mouth shut about this. So, in case you haven't figured it out yet, the term MRA is nothing but a fem-speak word for uppity non-feminist. If you refuse to be a feminist, and you make no secret of this, then MRA is the word they will smear you with while they are jamming you into the same tar ball with Elliot Rodger, George Sodini, etc., etc., etc. Oh, and they will also shove you into the same corner with those sleazy PUA pickup artist people, merely because you are not a feminist. See, if you're not a feminist, you're just like Royce or Roosh or any of those people, just because you're not a feminist, right? Yeah, that's feminist logic for you. But anyway, don't despair. There is an exit door for you. There is an escape hatch here. You see, if you are a nice, acquiescent non-feminist and you have the good sense to keep your mouth shut about your non-feminist opinions or about anything that's pro-male, then the feminists will graciously postpone their plans for you until later, until they've mopped up the badass counter-feminist insurgents like me and Nick. But never forget that they hate you too. Because, you see, by merely existing, you pose as big of a threat to their existence as any activist or loudmouth might do. In the long run, you see, they cannot assimilate you. That's the reason. And so long as you are hanging around, you can potentially undermine their world to the point of collapse. So they will attend to you sooner or later. You can count on it. That's right. If you're not a feminist, you're just like Elliot Rodgers, or you are in the same gang with Elliot Rodgers. That's what the feminists say. Well, enough of this. Okay, now, I'd like to share a very interesting article from the internet, and I thank Dan Perrins, our man in Ontario, for bringing this one to my attention. The link should be appearing in the chat window right about now. James, this would be cue number 1. Got that? As you will note, that article was written by a self-confessed feminist who wants to distance herself from feminism's crimes now that feminism is finally being called out for those crimes. Nick, you read that article, didn't you?
I did.
Hello, Nick.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Nick, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear Nick just fine.
Okay.
Might have some technical problems here. Anyway, if you go to this
Fiedelbogen, can you hear us?
The article. That is a feminist, written by a feminist, who confesses to being a feminist. At the end of the article, she flat out states that she is a feminist. And she is backpedaling on almost all of the major points of feminism, all the things that feminism has stood for over the years. Sounds like she's read the writing on the walls.
Hello?
Hello, I had a technical issue.
Okay,
all right.
I think that my microphone got unplugged there. Guys, have you missed anything that I said?
We didn't miss any of that, Fiedelbogen. It wasn't your mic, it was your speakers, because you weren't hearing us try to talk to you.
Oh, okay. Nick?
Yeah.
I didn't hear, I heard a dead wall of silence there. I accidentally unplugged my microphone. That's why I wasn't hearing you, because I wasn't getting it through my headphones. Anyway, Nick, anything you want to say? I know you got something to say here.
About this woman trying to distance herself from feminism?
Yes.
Or crimes of feminism?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We can expect to see, this is just the beginning. I mean, they're giving up, they've been giving up ground little by little for a long time now, and I mean, they're just going to have to get used to it because it's going to keep on fucking happening.
Mm-hmm.
But what the next stage in this is going to be them pretending, like feminists, pretending that they were never involved in feminism, or I mean, failing that, they're just going to burn their, if history is any guide, they're going to burn their uniforms and run to Brazil. But those who won't do that are just going to claim that they were in the Navy or that they were, they were blissfully ignorant of all the horrible shit that was going on, despite the fact that it was raining ash.
Well,
if anybody doesn't get the references, these are excuses that old Nazis come up with so that they can evade being detected as Nazis. They tell people that they were in the Navy or something like that.
Well, anyway, we have another word. We have another word for this. It's the feminist memory hole.
Yeah. If anyone's read 1984, the way these people operate is anything inconvenient, anything bad they've ever done, they are able to literally forget it on a fucking dime. So what we have to start doing now is recording instances of people.
Got to keep records. Always be recording.
Yeah, keep records of people engaging in feminist garbage, so that when feminism is totally uncool and they point and laugh at those silly feminists who are still hanging on to their ideals, you can take this proof and say you were right in there with them, and you can point the finger at them, and we must we have to essentially pillory them or metaphorically pillory them.
Of course, always metaphorical now. We're not going to literally tie them up in the town square. No.
Yeah. But, we will not let off until they publicly apologize for their involvement in a fucking hate movement. They're going to try to when we win when we get our goal, or at least my goal, of seeing feminism fall into the same disrepute as racism. We are not. I know that I will not be letting anybody off the hook until they publicly apologize.
Well, that's a good philosophy there. We're going to be at this for quite a while, for many years. I would say a good half century at least.
I think it's going to happen a lot quicker than that. Maybe I'm just being.
I think you're underestimating the power of the diehards, Nick. I think they're going to cling to life as long as they can. They're going to go down with the ship, and even when the water is up to their nostrils, the last words that they bubble out will be, fuck the patriarchy or something.
Yeah, and that's but the thing is, we can even use that because we can point to those diehards and constantly mock and ridicule them for the next generation of teenagers and young kids, the same way you would point at someone who is to this day, against the abolition of slavery or some shit like that.
I haven't seen many of them recently, but anyway. Anyway, I recommend you all go and read that article. It's a sign of the times. As far as I can tell, this author has effectively gutted feminism and thrown away 90% of what makes feminism, all in order to hang on to the good name of feminism, for whatever that's worth. Anyway, I think we're about halfway into the show right now. James, it's time for a music break. Let's let it roll. All right. Welcome back from the music break. Let's move right along. There is an expression among the feminists which has gained a lot of popularity of late. Well, actually, it's been around for a few years at least, but now it is mushrooming. Seems like they're all saying it. You don't really care about men's rights. You just hate feminism. We bring this to your attention because we think it is the cutting-edge distillation of where the battle for hearts and minds is presently situated. Yes, folks, it is front row center in the propaganda war. This is where it's at. It doesn't get any more nitty-gritty than this. You don't really care about men's rights. You just hate feminism.
Actually, in my case, that's correct. I did start mensrightsedmonton.com, and I do point out that women have at least one. I mean, they have more legal rights than men. They have two more legal rights than men: the right to genital integrity and the right to legal paternal surrender. But I don't. I bring those up not to bemoan the status of men, and I bring those up not even to try to achieve those rights for men, because well, first of all, I really can't be bothered. Just a cynical fuck. But I also I don't like the idea of a men's rights movement. I really just wish it was an anti-feminist movement. But the men's rights movement was the largest anti-feminist movement I could find, and so I backed it. The reason I don't like the idea of a men's rights movement or a gay rights movement or a black rights movement or anything of that sort is because it quickly goes from being yay us to fuck them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what demographic you're backing. I don't like the idea of having a movement that is for one demographic, because it always gets horribly perverted. I mean, you look at the American Civil Rights Movement, and that started out, like give don't treat black people like crap just for being black. Give everyone a fair shake, and I like that plan. But now you look at it, and it's don't say that word, don't tell that joke, and I've already seen it in the men's rights movement, like when KFC released that Hot Bites commercial, and all these MRAs started flipping their lid. Because they found that this was offensive to men and derogatory to men. And what I was telling them is, if it really gets under your skin, then make media that flips the genders, just like we did with "Don't Be That Girl." The response to hate speech is more speech, not censorship, because you don't want to be offended. And that's a trick that is easily learned. It doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter what the rights of what group you're backing. I just wanted to be against feminism and not for men, because you can, if you just focus on taking down feminism, then it won't become this men are so great and hard done by thing. I'm not saying that's where we are now, but I'm saying it's definitely a possibility that I really want to avoid, and I do that just by taking issue with feminism. And again, when I bring up all these things like the disparities in suicides, accidental workplace fatalities, homicides, homelessness, incarceration, I'm not even bringing it up to remedy those problems. I'm just bringing it up to refute feminism, to say this is not what a privileged class of people looks like. Therefore, feminism is wrong. My entire agenda is just anti-feminist.
Well, Nick, I'm going to differ with you just slightly there. I really do want to see those problems remedied. I certainly don't want to stand in the way of seeing those problems remedied. But at the same time, I see that in order to remedy those problems, you cannot really make any kind of headway in terms of analysis and in terms of correct understanding if you don't eventually deal with the subject of feminism and the part that feminism has played in all of this. And if you try to leave feminism out, you're leaving out half of the picture or more. So, yeah.
Yeah, and there are guys who like Paul Elam and Dean Esme, and guys here in Edmonton, we got a guy Chris, who are just nice guys, and they want to see, they've seen a lot of guys get screwed over, and they want to see that stop, and I've seen it too.
Shall we mention Earl Silverman?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely Earl Silverman. But those guys are gonna things like the Earl Silverman Center would have gotten government funding if it weren't for feminism. So with guys like me who are just in the business of abolishing feminism, it makes the guys with big hearts, it makes their jobs a lot easier.
Yes. I think just focusing on men's rights or men's issues and shutting up about feminism, which is what they want, by the way, which is what they want you to do. That's the whole purpose of this line of talk. You're hacking at the branches, but you're avoiding the root.
Yeah. And
anyway, I think it's time for us to open up the call line to callers. And the number to call, this is the Vanguard Report. The number to call is 214-666-6148. That's 214-666-6148. The line is open. Call in. Now, Nick, Where were we?
Well, we were talking about how we're getting all these guys like that Matt Binder moron who is he's telling Matt Binder and what's his name, the other guy that Paul Elam debated.
Clymer?
Yeah, Charles Clymer.
Clymer, yes.
Trying to appeal to the men's rights activists, saying that you have real issues, and they're all doing this. Even in Ryan Vanderhoek's video, it's like you guys do have some real issues, but you have to stop being so anti-feminist because what you really want.
Feminism has all the answers. Work with feminism. Yes.
Yeah, and then they start telling us what we really want. What you really want.
Us what we really want. Yes, yeah. That's they're well qualified in their expertise to tell us what we really want, aren't they?
Yeah, what you really want is for things to get better for men, and you can do that if you join up with feminism. Stop attacking it. The men's rights movement doesn't have to be anti-feminist. I remember when I started talking to, do you ever remember talking to the guy from Men's Rights Fiji? You remember him?
Yes, I have spoken with him quite a bit.
Yeah, that guy, I do not like him.
Well, but let's leave that out of the program right now. But
well, he was also saying that we don't have to be anti-feminist. We're getting this from all angles. And apparently, there's guys in the men's rights subreddit saying that we don't have to be anti-feminist. And
okay, well, people like that are just feminists 2 inches below their skin. And our task, over the course of time, is just to make it clear where the line is drawn and just encourage them to migrate to the side of the field where they belong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just going to, I have anti-feminism right on the front of my Men's Rights Edmonton. There was a little bit of talk at one point about getting that off of the front, but me and Raz were both like, no, we have to have anti-feminism up front. We want
if you're going to get rid of anti-feminism, you might as well just take all of this and wad it up and throw it in the garbage right there. Yeah. It will become totally worth. That's what they want. They are trying to split the non-feminist revolution right down the middle, divide it into the anti-feminist part and the pro-male part, and try to separate those two functions and cut them off from each other. That's like cutting a living body in half. You just can't do it without being at the expense of the entire body.
Do you remember when we were interviewed by Jade Frisch, or rather we interviewed her?
Yes, I remember that.
And she was asking us about, how we felt about pro-feminist MRAs. And I really regret...
No such thing as a contradiction in terms. I mean, not to mention that, some of us are not MRAs, but go on.
Yeah, and I mean, I really regret not asking her for a specific example, because I would have loved to hear her squirm, try to come up with some...
No, the pro-feminist MRA, that's a four-sided octagon.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no such animal as a pro-feminist MRA. Well, you could claim to advocate for men's rights, but if you do that and you say you are for feminism, which is as good as saying that you're feminist, then you are saying that you are for men within the framework of feminism, or you see the problem through the lens of feminism, and that's completely self-defeating. Yeah. Because feminism is inherently by definition anti-male, and that's all there is to it. And it's nothing but that, and will never be anything but that. And if it's anything other than that, then it needs another name, not the word feminism.
Yep. Just so people can know that the interview that we were talking about with Jade Frisch can be listened to on Fetal Bogan's YouTube channel. It's called Interview with Senza Nostra. As far as I'm concerned, taking down feminism, it's also about having reasonable goals. Before this show was reasonable for my own personal in my own timeline. How long am I going to live in all likelihood, and what stage of development can I hope to achieve? I think it's possible that within my lifetime I can see feminism fall into the same disrepute as racism. That is my end game.
I think it's already in that state of disrepute among a number of people. We just need to grow that number.
Yeah, the same disrepute, society-wide. Like, I want it to be... I want people to react to the word patriarchy the same way they would react to the word chink. A very uncomfortable word.
Well, I'd like to see them react to any kind of feminist terminology the way they would react to, say, Scientology jargon. That's my favorite example.
Also, when in the chat room here before this show started, people were saying that, like James was saying that, feminism is just a subset of traditional gynocentrism. Which is a larger beast that a lot of...
It's more than a subset. It is partly that, but it's also an extension of it. But anyway...
Yeah, there's a lot of MRAs want to tackle that too. I see that as a beast that I probably can't see dying in my lifetime.
Gynocentrism, if you are to believe a lot of the theory on that subject, is something that's rooted in our biology. And if that's the case, then there's not much we can do about it. We can manage it. We can put up walls of containment to limit the effect of it. We can be aware of it, all of that sort of thing. But it's not something that's just going to go away at our command, if you accept that theory.
Yeah. I've spoken with Alison Tiemann about this, or Typhon Blue. And, I've expressed my concerns that I raised earlier in this program about with the men's rights movement possibly just becoming another whiny special interest group that complains about anything offensive. Allison has assured me that that's not going to happen because gynocentrism is so deeply ingrained in our biology. Now, I don't agree with that, but, that's her 2 cents. That's her take on it.
And I'm sure that Girl Rights What probably has an opinion on that point as well. I know she very expressly states that she is more anti-feminist than men's rights.
Yep, that's the first thing she told me the first time we met, is that she was anti-feminist first, men's rights activist second.
Well, that describes me to a T.
Yeah, and me.
And I think that men's rights will do just fine if we attack the monster that's attacking men.
Yeah.
And, of course, people say that, don't blame feminism for all of men's problems. Well, I'm not blaming feminism for all of men's problems. Feminism did not start all of men's problems. A lot of men's problems pre-existed the second wave of feminism, which started in the 1960s. Okay. Yeah. But feminism either created men's problems. There are some men's problems that feminism very directly created, for which I hold feminism accountable. There are other men's problems, however, that predate feminism, or at least the 1960s version. And feminism, although it didn't create them necessarily, feminism builds upon those problems, capitalizes on those problems, encourages the continuation of those problems, is in no hurry at all to see those problems end, and in fact, quite the contrary. So in that way, I think in a very real sense, we can say that feminism is responsible for men's problems pretty much across the board, either firsthand or secondhand. Yeah. In my book, it's all the same. It's all one.
Yeah, well, I mean, you bring up something else that I want to talk about here, is that when, again, with Matt Binder and all these guys saying that we're blaming these things on feminism. No, it's actually men.
Well, I am blaming a lot on feminism, but go ahead.
Well, when we bring up these things like the draft, which is in the States, or selective service rather, we bring up male circumcision.
Oh, they're telling us we're blaming feminism for things that we don't specifically blame feminism for. I mean, when we bring up those issues, we are just pointing to them as examples of the way men are treated, and how ironic it is to speak of women being oppressed when we have this long list of ways that men are oppressed.
Yeah, exactly. It's when I bring these things up, I'm not laying them at the feet of feminism. I'm just saying this is proof that feminism is wrong, and they know that. But the thing is, they're so geared. Like their idea of solving a problem is blaming a demographic for it, and then the problem is solved, I guess. So when we bring these things up, their mind automatically jumps to, well, who are they blaming for this? And we have to remind them that men send other men off to war, so it's men's fault, right? Establishing whose fault it is the very
first men's fault. It's men's fault what men do to other men. It's also men's fault what men do to protect women, to make women more comfortable. I mean, the feminist picture of the world is grossly oversimplified and childish. And it's painful to even think about it. I mean, it's for morons.
Yeah, I don't. That's why I'm really not into this. I'm not placing blame with any of this. It's just, here's a theory. Here's the theory that I have a problem with. Here's why it's incorrect. That's it. That is it.
Well, that's one branch of analysis right there. But, I do place blame, of course. I don't place blame where some people say I might place blame. And to give you the example we just cited, no, I don't blame feminism for the draft. And I could expand that list. I blame feminism for what I blame it for, and then I blame feminism for really not giving a rip about the other stuff, and being complicit and being in cahoots with the other stuff, and pretty much capitalizing and profiteering off the other stuff, and making the other stuff continue. So, but in the end, it doesn't really matter so much, because feminism has plenty to answer for. It has tons to answer for. And just the question is, how do we make an answer for all of that? Well, and I see our time is winding down. The brick wall of death is looming closer now. Well, we got a couple of minutes left. Nick, anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
Yeah, the last thing that I want to get off here is I know that the men's rights movement has been asking for money up, down, left, and right, and center. Because what with the conference in Detroit and everything, but the activism that we do here in Edmonton isn't free. We have to buy posters. We have to pay for posters. We have to pay for glue. We've got these pamphlets that I want to design and put out, and broadcasting them is going to be expensive. And we just went down to Calgary a couple of weeks ago. So if anybody if people can just send $5 a month to mensrightsedmonton.com, not even, but just keep that in your mind that Men's Rights Edmonton does need donations to keep on doing the work that we do. That's all I really want to get out there.
Great. I hope the Green River flows your way.
Yeah, that's just mensrightsedmonton.com and go to our PayPal button.
Okay, I think the brick wall is getting maybe too close for comfort now. Let's wrap this up. It's been a great hour. Be sure you all go to cfproject.blog.com and read the Poison Manifesto. That's the Revolution Manual. Go there, cfproject.blog.com. And we have an email address here on the Vanguard Report. That is vanguardreport@usa.com. Once again, that's vanguardreport@usa.com. And I think we're close enough to the brick wall of death now. We probably ought to stop while we still have a chance. So, on that note, everybody take care. Remember, feminism is what we say it is. Never forget that. Feminism is what we say it is. Everybody, take care, and I'll see you again next week. Ciao. Feminist problem and what the hell we ought to do about it. We make it simple. Everything on this program revolves around 3 basic questions. 1, what is feminism? 2, where do we stand? 3, what is to be done? Sometimes we just talk about one of these. Other times we toggle back and forth so quickly it's hard to keep track. But still, everything we talk about one way or another is under the shadow of these 3 foundational points of reference. So, I am your host, Fetal Bogan, and as usual, I am with my co-host, Nick Redding, a.k.a. Eric Duckman, a true son of the Alberta Prairie, and one of the leading counter-feminist insurgents in the city of Edmonton. Nick, bestow your benediction upon all of the fine people out there.
Hey guys, I'm Nick Redding with mensrightsedmonton.com. Check out our website, mensrightsedmonton.com, and check out our YouTube channel, and please subscribe to it.
Feminism is what we say it is. And we say that feminism is the problem. Putting the conversation where it needs to be. This is the Vanguard Report.
Hello. Greetings to everybody on Earth who would rather see less feminism on Earth. This is episode number 10 of the Vanguard Report, your weekly program on 365 Live, where we talk about nothing but the Elliot Rogers would crop up regularly due to the anti-male zeitgeist which has established itself over the last half-century of the feminist regime. Our constant endeavor is to warn the world about such things in the hope that we might somehow starve the fire of its fuel and keep the nastiness to a minimum. Now, notice that I said Elliot Rogers' inherent significance to us is just about nil, but his second-hand or imputed significance, which we didn't ask for, is enormous. You see, even though our long-term mission is to prevent the tragic manifestation of people like Elliot Rodger, there are many who wish somehow to hold us responsible for such people when indeed they do manifest. That's right, we only want to offer the world a correct analysis that will make it possible to prevent the worst. And yet, doesn't he? But, in point of fact, Eliot's inherent significance to us is just about nil. Yes, in a more sane world, Elliot Rodger would be just another crime story, just more tabloid stuff, just another homicidal maniac to be held responsible for his own actions. Elliot Rodgers must go alone to meet his maker for what he has done, if that's your belief system. Otherwise, he just goes in the ground and rots. Believe whatever you want to believe, but it begins and ends with Elliot Rodger. And that's all I've got to say about it. Well, all I ought to have to say about it, all anybody ought to have to say about it, but we live in a more complicated world. You see, for us in particular, Elliot Rodger serves mainly as an object lesson and a proof of prophecy. Yes, counter-feminism is a prediction-based political formula, and for years we have tried to warn the world that people like...
We always want more subscribers.
Yes, please subscribe. Please go give their website traffic. While I'm on the subject of websites, you should go to cfproject.blog.com. That is where you will see the Poison Manifesto in all of its glory. If you want to know the plan for the revolution, the broad outline, the umbrella statement, and the background to most of what we talk about here on this program, you will want to read the Poison Manifesto. You will want to download the PDF copy that you will find linked at the bottom, and you'll want to share it with anybody and everybody who might be interested, or even with those who might hate it. It's all good. That's cfproject.blog.com. I think that's appearing in the chat window right about now. Very well. This is the Vanguard Report, episode number 10. So, what about that little pipsqueak, Elliot Rodger? He surely does cast a long shadow now